Hello, America. Welcome to the Junto Podcast, where we promote the practical applications of critical thinking and bold creativity. I am your host, Edgar Mills. Thanks for joining us. Hello, good people. Welcome to episode 41 of the Junto Podcast. Thank you all for listening. I appreciate each and every one of you. All right, topic of the day. We're talking about the Second Amendment, and we're talking about the rising trend of gun ownership among liberals, extreme liberals, but certainly moderate liberals, and their motivations and things like that. What that is showing us is it's starting to unveil some truths about human nature as it relates to the Second Amendment and gun ownership. And it's starting to reveal some things that some of us suspected existed all along, but we're going to examine it. Now, of course, I'm going to break it down objectively, as objective as possible, with my built-in biases. I mean, I can still be somewhat objective. But you all know that I believe in and support the absolute authority of the Second Amendment as a fundamental right, not to be infringed for any reason from anyone. It exists for the sole stated purpose to resist tyranny, and also by default, individual tyranny, right? Personal self-defense. So I don't believe it's a partisan issue, and don't believe it's ever been a partisan issue. So we're going to talk about it. I was inspired to do this episode by a friend of mine named Jordan, and Jordan operates the A Better Way to A podcast. And I was a guest on their podcast a couple years ago. I believe he's he's more liberal than I am for sure, as far as that goes, politics, but not a radical for sure. I mean, he's a very rational person, and we probably disagree on some policy issues, but we're both reasonable humans. We're both mature adults, and we both have the capacity to agree or disagree without becoming emotionally unhinged. We both agree that beyond it all, no matter what your politics are, you still treat people with good manners and a baseline of human respect. So, yes, I think he might be a little liberal, but he's also a very smart guy, and he also has he's objective. I think he's objective and intelligent. And so he is the person who inspired this. And why is because he made a comment on a news article. NPR did a news article on the rise of gun ownership amongst the leftist, left-wing segment of society there. And they interviewed several people. And Jordan did a very thoughtful and succinct commentary on one of the Instagram, I think, or whatever social media posts. And I mean, I thought it was brilliant. So I texted him and asked, could I riff on his commentary? So that's what I'm doing. I just want to add my 2 cents to it. So yeah, that's the motivation there. So in that news article from NPR, now straight away, NPR, I think, is basically a leftist propaganda machine. And in the 90s, even in the late 80s into the 90s, I listened to NPR. At the time, I thought it was straight news. I didn't realize it was slowly but surely becoming more and more divisive. But as everything is, right? As every news outlet is, one way or the other. But what I liked about NPR was back then, they would highlight emerging musicians who some of them went on to be, popular and famous. Some of them didn't, but they always highlighted very independent music, unique music. And it was great. It was good. Anyway, enough about NPR specifically. This news article, they did some interviews and things like that. So Broadview is one gay man who they interviewed. He expressed his desire to own a gun because of his fear of unrest surrounding the ICE raids. Now, I don't know that this man was any. Well, he was a citizen, I'm sure. So I don't know why a gay man specifically would fear ICE raids, but generally speaking, they are kind of viewed as militaristic and scary. Well, you can make a direct comparison to the riots during the George Floyd riots, right? The conservatives were very concerned about the riots during that time, so they pushed gun ownership. Well, despite the politics around both of those, I think both sides have a legitimate fear, or maybe it's an irrational fear, but a legitimate concern about their own safety, right? And here in America, well, not some states, but you don't have to express a need for safety, right? That's just inherent. One young woman, there was a father-daughter crew that they interviewed, she said she felt strong through shooting, which, yeah, sure. And that kind of challenged, I thought, like the stereotypes of gun ownership. There is a stereotype. People think about gun owners and they think, you know, I guess truck 4x4 driving redneck racist. Some people attach that to racism and all that stuff. But a young left-leaning woman thought owning a gun made her feel emboldened and strong. And then they interviewed a trans individual who was motivated by the January 6th events, of which there's still people in jail. Only one person was shot and killed during that entire incident, and that was by a Capitol police officer on an unarmed protester. Yeah. So this trans individual was motivated by that. And what is that? Is that rational or irrational? Right, wrong, or otherwise, whatever you think about the January 6th, there was an institutional failure. Whether it was a staged event or whether it was the institution and the administration's inability to protect the protesters, because the left will tell you protesting is inherently American, but not on January 6th at the Capitol, just everywhere else. So that's a divisive issue. But this trans person was motivated by that to be a gun owner. So what I'm getting at here is, if you strip away all this friggin' partisan hyperbole and this left and right framing of the topic, the NPR article shows a very common human need for safety and for individual agency, autonomy, and personal dignity. Yeah, because this world is increasingly uncertain and uneasy. And I think the politicians foment that, but that's a whole nother thing. So let's talk about this shared common desire. The universal need or right to self-defense. That's not selective in demographic, right? Every individual has a right to self-defense. And people understand I'm speaking from a libertarian perspective. I will highlight what I think conservative perspectives are. I'm a little more conservative than liberal, well, in some cases, but I'm coming from a more libertarian perspective here. But this universality of self-defense, it's everybody. Everybody gets it, is afforded that. Not through law, by the way, but through natural rights, by virtue of being born. And the desire to protect yourself in any situation. Now, it's not ideological, folks. It's inherent to the human condition. It's a subconscious reaction to protect yourself. It's a subconscious reaction. It's the human condition. Everybody, regardless of politics, wants to preserve their own life and liberty when they think it's threatened. Yeah, when they think it's threatened. The Second Amendment is not a partisan tool. Now, some people may believe that the conservative right took ownership of the Second Amendment somehow, and it's not for everyone else. That's bull crap. That ties into the stereotypes. And we all know, stereotypes are all founded in a little bit of truth, but now get out of here, man. The Second Amendment, right, applies to every American citizen. And the right to self-defense applies universally, citizen or not. It's the last line of defense, folks. It says it right there in that. It's a defense first and foremost against tyranny, from the left or right. It don't say what side of the aisle the tyranny should come from that makes the Second Amendment valid. Any political tyranny. Because the left and right, good people, I don't care what side you think you're on, they both seek to control you. That is their desire. It's the same exact beast. The Second Amendment is our defense. It's our last line of defense against tyranny from the government and against individual ground level tyranny, assault, right? Self-defense. And it helps us maintain some kind of grounding in a state of uncertainty, right? Think apocalypse. Think societal collapse. What are you going to do if you're not wealthy or if you're not among the elite class and we go into some kind of bizarre societal collapse and you don't have a firearm and you aren't able to defend yourself against other people with firearms? Now, that's extreme, but is it? The state will not protect you, good people. Understand it. They will not. Second Amendment ensures that our personal security don't depend on government largesse or government, worse yet, government efficiency. I can't remember. I think it was von Mises or Milton Friedman. Somebody like that said that if the government was in charge of the beaches, there would be a shortage of sand in 5 years. Government efficiency is not a thing. It don't exist. If you rely on government benevolence or government efficiency, you're going to be a subject. We will all be subjects within just a few years. We have to maintain our own autonomy. And that starts with the First and Second Amendments. Now, critiquing conservative fears during all these leftist riots when it's some racially motivated thing or whatever, critiquing that as bad faith and being disingenuous, and then turning around and validating liberal fears during these Border Patrol incidents and these ICE operations, all that does is expose your hypocrisy and your unwillingness to really look at the crux of the matter. But what it does show, though, it shows hypocrisy if you're for one but not for the other. And that's on both sides, good people. You can't critique the left for being concerned about these ICE operations that are somehow very public and somehow very large scale with masked operator-looking types and all. You can't critique them for wanting to own guns and protect themselves, and then think it's okay during these BLM riots and all this and that. It might be a little apples and oranges. That's a different podcast, but what it does expose beyond the hypocrisy is that how your proximity to risk, right? When it becomes personal to you, all of a sudden armed self-defense is unassailable. It's just become a very reasonable option, right? When it affects you. So treat it the same as when it affects other people, but not you. It's still a very reasonable and, well, it should be unassailable right. Armed self-defense And I say this a lot during training and things. Some people are not familiar with violence. And if you're not familiar with violence, you kind of develop irrational fears. But when you are familiar with violence, and that don't mean go out and do crime. You can go be a part of a jiu-jitsu gym, or you can go, and I wouldn't even say training firearms makes you, that doesn't even make you familiar with violence, because firearm training is just a tool. It's either neither violent nor nonviolent. It's just the use of a tool. But being unfamiliar with violence, if you've never been punched in the face, right, and the first time you ever get punched in the face is when you're a grown man, you're probably going to have a a semi-extreme reaction to it. And you're either going to bow up and become the Hulk, or you're going to shrink and cower. So you should become, so at any rate, when it becomes personal to you, then things start to look a little different. Self-defense starts to look a little different. We can't rely on police. We can't rely on the government to protect us. Libertarians have long argued that true equality comes from individuals empowering themselves, right? Not waiting for permission or for protection from a central authority. You have the right, use it. You have the right, use it. That don't mean you have to go kill people, good people. You don't have to be violent to protect yourself. But violence is sometimes very random, so it may happen to you. Having a gun, I say this all the time too, carrying concealed right out in the public as a self-defense tool, it's much like a parachute, right? You don't need it until you do, and then it's the only thing you need, right? So, empowerment. Let's go to empowerment. Now, this article gave an example of a daughter who said she felt strong through firearms training. And that aligns directly with values of self-reliance and personal agency that I think everybody should have. That's very much libertarian as far as politics goes, but everybody should have that value of self-reliance and personal autonomy. Guns, good people, are the great equalizers. They level the playing field in uncertain and violence, right? Guns level the playing field. And I've said this in multiple podcasts. I believe an armed society is a polite society. If a bad guy thought that everybody out there walking the street had a gun on him, he would have to be way more selective about choosing a victim. As opposed to today, in the modern day, if I'm walking down the streets of New York City, I can assume that almost no one has a gun, with the exception of a cop. Yeah. Guns level the playing field. And in places where gun ownership is still considered a right, right? And a lot of the red states, I'm just going to say a lot of red states that are more pro-gun, there are a lot of gun owners and a lot of concealed carriers. And you may very well get shot if you try some bullshit on someone. Guns level the playing field when it comes to violence. Whether you're a woman, minority, transsexual, elderly, if you are numerically or physically disadvantaged, guns help level that playing field out. Now, I'm not just saying the gun, right? You still have to train, but again, that's another episode. There's a lot of stereotypes around gun ownership that I think the left foments, and the right, I don't know, I think they might even relish in it a little bit. But there's a lot of stereotypes around gun ownership as being, toxic masculine compensation for having a small dick or whatever. Well, that doesn't hold up compared to this interview, right? This NPR interview, there was nothing remotely resembling that. But what this NPR article did expose, and what my friend Jordan's comments did expose, is that the right to bear arms empowers vulnerable people. Yeah, that empowers vulnerable people and fosters independence, so that you don't have to rely on the state or the cops or some bizarre collective BLM group of Black Panthers carrying around AR M&P 1522s with. Anyway, there's some bizarre pictures out there of collective gun ownership. So it's not about endorsing or opposing some kind of social identity, right? Be who you are. And it's not about labeling people as an ally or an enemy. It's about recognizing that the Second Amendment, the authority of the Second Amendment extends to everyone, enabling you to protect yourself in a violent world, right, where threats do not discriminate. Now, some people target certain groups or certain things, but it's famously some of the gay gun groups, they had a T-shirt out there that says, "Armed gays don't get bashed." And that seems pretty succinct, right? It's hard to discriminate physically, violently against people who have the means to protect themselves. And again, the threats in the real world, right? We're not talking about these ideological make-believe apocalypse, societal collapse things. I'm talking about desperate, drug addicts hanging out in dark corners, and you walk by and you look like a victim and they need money, or they need whatever they need or want, and decide to try to take it from you. That still happens. Or if you find yourself in the wrong, you're visiting a major city that you're not familiar with, and there happens to be some bizarre riot going on, and you make the wrong turn, and now you got rioters jumping up and down on your car and want to pull you out and beat you to death because you're the wrong color. Well, what are you going to do then? Right? You're going to talk them down? You're going to have a rational debate with them? It's kind of hard at that point. So the trans interviewee on that NPR article talked about January 6th. And January 6th, again, whatever you believe, whatever you think about it politically, at its core, it shows us one true thing, and that's that governments are fallible. Now, whether that January 6th thing was an inside job with agitators set up to make it look a certain way, had Capitol Police letting people in and out of the Capitol building, like basically escorting. You had a bunch of weird shit going on, right? It don't matter who's in charge of the government. That is the government in action. So whether it's nefarious or whether it's incompetence or whatever, that you can't depend on it to protect you as an individual basis. I think Ashley Babbitt was her name. She couldn't depend on it. The government's ability to protect you is an illusion, 100% illusion, and that illusion is shaped by agendas from these people, and it's backed by inefficiency. Again, be it incompetence or ill will, and especially for marginalized groups. And the fact of the matter is, history shows us that states, governments, whether it's state, federal government, they either fail, they either overreach, or they selectively enforce certain law, depending on the agenda at the time. You can rise above that simply by owning a firearm and not capitulating to whatever. I'm not telling you to go riot, good people, with firearms. But these days, here's what I noticed the government and the news is using a lot, is they're calling people who protest insurrectionists. They're starting to use that word a lot. Insurrectionists. That's not happenstance. That's by design, because insurrection means something different under legal authority than just protester. So beware. Armed insurrection will get you hemmed up. Some people call January 6th an armed insurrection. I beg to differ. Again, the only person shot and killed during that was a protester, and she was unarmed. Yeah. So instead of calling for government intervention or more laws, gun laws, this interview specifically just reinforced the fact that the Second Amendment is the ultimate backstop. Because when it came down to it, these people, these left-wing people who they interviewed, eventually it came down to an individual responsibility. They discovered now, especially with Donald Trump, right? Donald, what do you call it? Trump derangement syndrome? That works on both sides. Yeah, that works on both sides. That works on the left and the right. And finally, they decided that, man, it's possible that this guy could try to target my group. And what happens if that's the case? I have to take responsibility for myself. And that's always what it's been, folks. Always. The Second Amendment has always been the ultimate backstop. It's an unalienable right that ensures an individual can defend themselves when institutions will not or cannot, without needing to trust in their efficiency or impartiality or abilities simply to react. So these people they're very skeptic of the government. Well, guess what? Skepticism is not extremism, good people. I love America. I'm very skeptical of the politics. I'm not an extremist. No. I'm not extreme and in my thought process. I'm prudent in my thought process. The Founding Fathers made this, they enshrined this as an absolute right in order to protect the individual against uncertainty, political unrest, crime, state inadequacies and overreach. Yeah, whatever you can hate on the Founding Fathers if you're a lefty, if you want to, but the document is still one of the greatest documents ever to be written. So what we do see from this article, and then from other people I know people who are on the extreme right and on the extreme left. What this article, and this is a welcomed article, by the way, it exposes that it's a common ground. Now, tragically, it's common ground based in fear and self-preservation, but it's still common ground. And it's a core right for all, and it's an individual core right, and specifically the Second Amendment and First Amendment specifically transcend politics, good people. It transcends politics. The pursuit of life, liberty, and property transcends politics. Politicians love to tinker with those things. But once again, Second Amendment's the backstop. So instead of trying to solve these gun problems, right? Well, it's not a problem to be solved. Instead of trying to ban guns, and because if that happens, let's just say America banned all guns and somehow magically managed to police up all the guns in America, which I can't remember, 500 million guns in America. If you managed, is that right? I think it's more than that. Even to do all that, then who has the guns? Because they're not going to ban guns for the government, good people. Government's still going to have them. So now, let's take the left-wing people who believe in banning guns, and then let's draw the comparison to, okay, now you're out protesting, and ICE is the only ones with guns. And now you step in front of, you're in your car, and you decide you want to drive away, however smart or dumb that is, and an ICE guy pulls his pistol out and blasts you. You've got that's it. There you go. So banning guns, good people, is only gonna, basically, you're giving away the farm there. The guns aren't the problem. Guns aren't a problem. They're to be celebrated when more citizens take on ownership of their self-defense and as an individual responsibility. Yeah. Guns promote a society of empowered citizens, individuals. Yeah. And guess what? The First Amendment, here's the thing. You can say the things you want to say, however radical. And half the population will disagree with you. But the Second Amendment, good people, doesn't require any alignment on any other issue. It requires no alignment on any other issue. You can be the leftist of left, and you can be the rightist of right, and you can both agree that you both have a right to self-defense. Yeah. It doesn't require alignment on any other issue. It doesn't require capitulation on any other issue. Simply is an acknowledgement the Second Amendment has absolute authority. It's neutral. The Second Amendment is the guardian of personal sovereignty. It's neutral. It applies to everyone. There's nothing to be agreed or disagreed with. Is murder wrong? Yeah, absolutely. Whether you shoot somebody or stab somebody or beat somebody to death with a hammer. That's got nothing to do with gun ownership. People conflate those things. They conflate inner city crime with guns. And every morning on the news on Fox 5 Atlanta, somebody is dead in South Fulton. Yeah, it's almost every morning you hear it. And the first thing they do is say gun crime. It's not gun crime. There's other issues there. There's other cultural and societal issues at play. The gun just happens to be the tool. Don't conflate the result with the tool itself. The Second Amendment is neutral, good people. Yeah. So ultimately, good people, if you can put yourself above all the partisan noise, and you can see, and this article helps to highlight this a little bit, that we're all driven really by the same kind of natural instincts for security and autonomy. Well, that kind of universal need for security is that's it. It's protected by the Second Amendment without any favoritism, without any bias. Yeah. And that's where we have our foundation for true freedom right there. If we can stand to say what we want and defend it against anyone. Yeah. I'd love to hear your arguments on it. There's a lot of statistics. Some people do very, very specific surveys to try to get very specific numbers. The fact of the matter is, more guns equal less crime. That's the way it is. The more law-abiding citizens that are armed, the less apt bad guys are to carry out their ends. There is a level of responsibility, good people, that is required. But check it out. Here's where the government goes south. Acknowledging that there are dumbasses in the world, the government wants to make rules at that base. They want that to be the baseline. We're banning guns because of the lowest common denominator. Instead of assuming that all Americans are responsible, they assume all Americans are irresponsible. Therefore, they should have some kind of right to limit our rights. Well, that's bullshit. That's wrong. It's wrong. There are irresponsible people out there. There's people with ill will out there. There's people who have perfectly clean criminal records who may snap and kill people. That's right. That happens. We're talking about contingencies in very small numbers in comparison. There's people who accidentally shoot each other. Yeah. I always bring up the instance of a father who's cleaning his shotgun in his house on his couch, and his son was sitting, and he blasted his son. And the only thing he could say after the fact was, "I thought it was unloaded." Well, to me, that's unacceptable. But that's where training comes in. And believe me, there is no shortage of people willing to train you. There's different levels of skill out there, and that is 100% for sure. But there is a baseline safety knowledge that exists. There's 4 universal rules of firearm safety that exist. And all you have to do is know those and implement those. The skill can come, right? You can always, anybody can be taught to put bullets on a certain spot. Your gun handling is one of those inherent habitual things you have to know, understand, and execute. Know, treat every gun as it's loaded. Keep your finger off the trigger and out of the trigger guard. Don't point anything you don't want to shoot. Be aware of your target and be aware of its surroundings. Clearly identify your target and be aware of its surroundings. Those are the 4 universal rules of firearms safety. They apply everywhere, all the time. It doesn't matter if you're on the range or in combat or at the Waffle House parking lot at 3 a.m. They apply. So, if you're lefty, and well, chances are you're not listening to my podcast if you're an extreme lefty, but even if you're a borderline lefty, you still probably like guns if you're listening to my podcast. So I don't know if this has reached people that I want it to reach. But let me say this, if you're a hard right guy, just had a glitch. Let me say this, though. If you're a hard right guy and you don't think that, if you think it's okay to ban guns for queers or trans or blacks or whoever, you need to rethink. You need to rethink your political, man, there keeps being glitches. I don't know if that's the internet connection or what. If you think that, you need to rethink your sort of politics and your, whether or not you think you're a hypocrite or not. Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Now, I know some of you hard right out there who are listening right now, you're thinking to yourself, let's use the trans community because I always pick on them. Is there psychological issues there? And now we're getting into the capacity for people who are mentally unstable to own guns. Hey, I don't have the right answer on that necessarily. And it's something to be discussed amongst smart people. I'm not qualified to speak on mental health necessarily, as it pertains to gun ownership. But until somebody has proven something, and then the tragedy is they have to do something bad for you to discover, their state of mind, right? So that's a complex issue, and it's a discussion to be had. But I'm talking about in the broader sense here. If you're a trans man and you're a perfectly reasonable human, and you get up and go to work or do whatever you do, you make your living, you contribute to society, you don't hurt others. Yeah, why not? And it's arguable that trans people probably need to be armed more than other people because I don't think we've seen this a lot lately, good people. In the 90s, we saw it where trans people were getting bashed and beat up and whatnot. And that's a thing. Even in the 80s, there was gay bashing going on. These marginalized groups, good people, if you're a rational human, you must concur that that these marginalized people have every right not to be brutalized. Think about that, good people. Think about it. There's a whole history around racism with gun ownership. In the mid-century America, gun laws emerged because they didn't want groups of black people being able to protest while armed, in certain places and things like that. So just like everything the government does, it's a control measure. They want to disarm either certain groups or everyone now as a control measure. And the reason the reason they're considered technically pro-gun is because their constituency would friggin' lose it if the right went anti-gun. Because I believe it's their job to represent their constituency. And there's a whole lot of gun owners in America who are conservative. But the good news, and this is what this article points out, and I'm on board, is that now there's a whole lot of lefties who are starting to be gun owners. Now, are they all in? Or if the government says, okay, we're banning guns for everyone, or would they be willingly give up that right? And they're just buying guns as a backstop, but they don't really feel it. So there's all sorts of nuances out there, good people. All sorts. What I would leave you with on this topic is be intellectually consistent and be fair and consistent across the board. If it's your right to carry a gun, why shouldn't it be someone else's right to carry a gun? Yeah. And who among us shouldn't have a right to defend themselves? Think about that. That's all I got on that topic, good people, for now. Anyway, specifically. And again, thanks to Jordan at A Better Way 2A for. I should read. I should read his. It's kind of long. I'm not gonna verbally plagiarize, but it's good stuff. So, Libertarian Party of Georgia just had their state convention this weekend. It's going on now until I think it ends at about 2:30 today. But all the business was done yesterday. All the voting on the delegates voted for candidates. We are pushing a candidate up for the U.S. Senate, and I'm going to find this. It's Alan. He got up and gave a pretty impassioned pitch, and it was pretty good. And he's a lawyer, of course. Yeah, everybody's a freaking lawyer in politics. He's a lawyer, and he's a finance guy. He deals a lot with finance. And he had a lot of very good sort of platform ideas on how to fix the money issue, the spending and tax and spending issues, because that's what's up. Tax and spending, it's insane. So I'm trying to find this guy, and we got a new secretary for the Libertarian Party of Georgia. Zane Placey was the secretary, and he did a fantastic job. He's one of the smartest guys I've ever met. And then yesterday, we voted in Sergio Ortega to be the new secretary of the party, who is also one of the smartest guys I've ever met. I can tell you this, there's a lot of smart people out there, right? But these are two humans. There's some libertarians that are some very just incredibly smart humans. And I enjoy that, right? I enjoy meeting these people and just being impressed. I'm not easily impressed. 100%. I am not easily impressed. However, I am impressed by Zane. I'm impressed by Sergio. And he lives up here, by the way. He goes to North Georgia College. Yes, but he is in our local affiliate up here in Bartow Floyd County, Polk County affiliate. So I get the occasion to listen to him carry on about policies and things, and man, he's awesome. So I cannot find the post that of the guy we're running for Senate. I think Chase Oliver got nominated to run as governor, and now Chase Oliver was going to be a presidential candidate, I think, or presidential candidate. Now, we disagree on certain things, true enough, but he is a libertarian-minded guy. I think and he's small government, right? And he's all about decentralized government. Now, is he going to, again, what I really hate is that I know that libertarians have a very minimal chance to get big elections. But what I do like is we also saw several people get nominated for small local governmental seats, and like even county. Like one of them, it was kind of funny, but Zane, who was the secretary, got nominated to run for Fulton County Soil and Land Management, something or another, some obscure seat. But they did have a sort of a weird critical role, and that's good, man, and that's awesome. So if he gets that will be that'll be awesome. And there's a strong chance of it, by the way. Ted Metz was nominated for Secretary of State of Georgia, and that's Brad Raffensperger's seat. And if you're a conservative, you know Raffensperger is not a conservative. You may think he is, but he's not. Here we go. U.S. Senate, Alan Buckley. So he's got a lot of very good plans. And if he gets up there, hey man, we will have a good person in the Senate that will try to help tame government spending. Yeah, we'll try to help tame government spending. And that's where it's at. Don't hurt people. Don't take their stuff. Taxation is theft. Free market. Yep. True free markets. And that's to include no crony capitalism. Yeah. Oh, here we go. And then there's Andrew Underwood, who is from up here in North. He lives in the 14th district. He is running as the only libertarian for the District 14 seat that Marjorie Taylor Greene has given up. Now, I can't even tell you how many people are running for that seat. Probably 20 plus, and probably 15 of those are Republicans, a couple of Democrats, and then one independent libertarian, and his name is Andrew Underwood. So there was a lot of stuff going on there. It was pretty good. You know, I'm a voting delegate. I listen to these people and I vote for who I think is the right person for the party. And then, you know, I try to support with range days for the Libertarian Party and things like that. That's the capacity I have, right? I have a shooting range and I have the capacity to train people. So that's what I do to try to support. So, and then there's always the Great Create DIY Freedom Festival that happens every year that I participate in. And they do that. It's a fundraiser, and it's to expose people to some alternative, you know, lifestyle things. And it's very good, and there's always great humans there. So, you know, if you're dyed-in-the-wool red or blue, that good, you know, good on you. I encourage you as a critical thinker to you know, ask yourself why. Is it because that's the way it's always been? Because my dad and granddad voted blue? You know, what I do notice is there's a lot of Dixiecrats in the Rome-Floyd County area. And that is deep Southern Democrats. And, you know, and then on the opposite end, there's extreme right-wing Republicans. But what I do think, though, is that the middle is growing as far as politics goes. I think people are starting to see that the extremes on the left and right are just kind of getting out of control. Because what you get is you'll get some kind of bizarre policy or some kind of bizarre political action that happens, and then there's an extreme overreaction and response. So it's just one equal and opposite reaction to another. And the more extreme they get, well, and at some point it starts to alienate people in the middle. Hell, man, your average person just wants to pay less than $2 a gallon for gas, and they want to be able to afford groceries, and they want to buy a house. These days, you go look at a house that should be about $150,000, and it's $350,000. And they will they'll put that price tag on it with a straight face, because that's what the manipulated market bears right now. It's crazy. Regular people can't afford life, and you certainly can't afford to get ahead. And that leads us down the road to serfdom, good people. It's just, we got to start looking at alternatives. Your red and your blue guy ain't going to fix the problem. Well, their platforms aren't going to fix the problem, because ultimately the red and blue just are after control. The great thing about the libertarian platform is that nobody is seeking to be in charge of you. They are seeking to level the playing field equally for all people, and then let the free markets do what they do. So anyway, Libertarian Party of Georgia, check it out. There's probably an affiliate near you. Fulton County, they have a strong affiliate. Up here in Bartow, Floyd, Polk, and I think that's an affiliate. There might be one more county in that. And we get together regularly to meet about initiatives. Specifically up here, we do Habitat for Humanity volunteering. They do a river cleanup. I've yet to be a part of it. It's always conflicts with my schedule, but they do a river cleanup initiative. And then they go out and they put tables up at festivals and things and try to spread the libertarian thing. And for the Libertarian Party of Georgia, we do a range day every year. I think last year we did it twice. We do a range day, and as our big range, should that get approved, and then that's going to expand a little bit and be a little more robust and, a little bit more like a big event as opposed to just a range day. So there's a lot of things we do and it's all to minimize the power of the centralized government and maximize the individual power, individual autonomy, and right to determination for ourselves, and the right to keep the money we earn and spend it as we see fit, and those types of things. So, yeah, give it a look. Libertarian Party of Georgia. All right, good people, that's enough of the politicking. Everything kind of revolves around politics. It sucks that that's the case. I'm gonna start curbing that a little bit. I think the next episode we're gonna try to talk about the arts a little bit. I don't know. The reason politics affects everything is because they try to put their fingers onto everything. So that's what we're against. All right. What's coming up? I got nothing scheduled, folks. We got the pistol workshop that's coming up is sold out. So thanks to all the folks who got a ticket for that. It's going to be a good course. We got private sessions. I'm pretty much maxed out through the end of January. So as you all may or may not know, I'm probably going to be out of town in February. So I won't start scheduling private sessions again until March. Now, if you have the capacity to look that far ahead, we can schedule it, right? So don't think that you can't look into it. You can. And I'm going to be reachable while I'm out of town. I'm just not going to be here to train. And it's quite possible that if you want to train bad enough, Ezekiel can probably come out and train with you as well, just not during the week. He would only be able to do that on the weekends. So that's available. But at any rate, go to ospreyshootingsolutions.com and check all that out. Go to 2teamguys.com. That's the number 2, teamguys.com. See what we offer by way of leadership development and team building via adventure, right? We do a lot of cool things over there with the similar goals of developing strong leaders and formidable teammates. And those are by appointment or by schedule, right? If you in a small crew, you need 4 people minimum to schedule a course, and scheduling's flexible, and we will get you on the books and do whatever things you're interested in there. All the course offerings are on the website, 2teamguys.com. Of course, we have thejuntopodcast.com, where you can read the blogs and listen to the latest 3 podcast episodes. However, all the episodes are on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, even YouTube, even though there's no video, it's all audio. But the Junto Podcast is on all the platforms. And then, of course, you are able to write a paper of a topic of your choosing, whatever you're passionate about, and pending a little bit of, not editing, but as long as it's reasonable paper, and I don't mean content-wise, I mean somewhat professionally written, and not even professionally written, just generally free of error. We'll post that up on the website. Let's see what's after that. And then we have siloftc.com. Most of you know that we are in a battle, if you will, to get approval to build our range, which we're going to call Silo Firearms Training Complex. So January 27th will be the final determination on that. I think we've presented a really strong case, and I hope that it goes. Let's see. And then finally, Help a Homie Fund is my way of reaching out to people within my reach who are in need. However small that need is, it has to be small right now because we have very little capacity. But my point is this: there are a lot of people out there in need who don't qualify for this, that, or the other. They don't qualify to be on a program or whatnot, and things happen. Unexpected car repairs or unexpected illness, or we are a working family and my husband or wife got laid off, so we're on one income, which these days, good people, if you have one or more children and you have only one income, you are probably somewhat close to the struggle bus, unless you're, well off, real well off. But I mean working class people. So that's my way of helping them. And it's beneficial, and we've helped a few people, but again, it's very small change right now, and that is givesendgo.com/help a homie fund. So again, if you're a charitable person and you feel driven to do this, yep, we will be good stewards of your money. Other than that, good people, I thank you. I appreciate you. Reach out to me via any of those websites to comment or give me some suggestions or whatnot, or debate or argue or tell me how wrong I am. All the things. So I'm here for you. Good people, thank you very much for listening to me. I love you guys.